Everybody, and happy Sabbath. Blessings to everybody. And today we're going to be studying what is going on with regards to this new papal union that is taking place. And the union is taking place with the state power, of course. Revelation chapter 17 and many other places in the Bible are talking about this. But these trade unions have something that is coming with them, and that is Sunday laws. And so we're going to examine this in light of some of the things that are happening right now, and you do not want to miss what we're going to share today. We build the future, and that's kind of the saying of Klaus Schwab as well as the Pope, and we'll come to that as we go here. But building the future, just consider in ancient Babylon, they thought they were building the future as well, and so today in modern day Babylon, they might be building something that is a modern Tower of Babel, but it's contrary to the plan of God. And God has a plan, and that plan is to get to heaven in a different way. But we're going to talk about some things with regards to trade unions, AI, Sunday laws, all of this. We're going to put all the pieces together here today, whether it's the left wing or the right wing, and whether it's the Pope or whether it's the World Economic Forum or the United Nations. They are all coming together in one accord, and they're working in a union, as it says in Revelation chapter 17, that they might have one mind. Revelation 17. Anyways, before we start, if we can, let's bow our heads in prayer. Our dearest Heavenly Father, we just want to thank you for being with us today. Again, Father, we need your Spirit to guide us in all truth. Without you, we have nothing and we know nothing. Father, I do ask that every mind here would be waiting and just hearing your voice as it comes to us today when you speak, Father, and let your words be my words so that I speak what you want to give the people to hear today. And I do pray these things in the name of your precious Son, Jesus, and thank you. Amen. Okay, guys. So yeah, it is live on YouTube as well. Okay. So this is something that we've been given in the spirit of prophecy from Ellen G. White. She said the work of the people of God is to prepare for the events of the future. So what events are coming in the future, guys? Well, she says, which will soon come upon them with blinding force. Things are going to get very difficult here very soon. It says, in the world, gigantic monopolies will be formed. Men will bind themselves together in unions that will wrap them in the folds of the enemy. A few men will combine to grasp all the means to be obtained in certain lines of businesses. Trade unions will be formed, and those who refuse to join these unions will be marked men. Trade unions. What is a trade? Well, trading is basically done through buying or selling. And there is going to be unions that are going to come to pass where the buying and selling will become a very difficult issue. We read about this in the book of Revelation chapter 13, where it says, no man might buy or sell, save he that has the mark. And obviously, those who come against this will be marked in their own way. They're going to be men that will be coming contrary to these things, and they're going to be standing up because they refuse to join these unions. Now, Donald Trump's pro-union labor secretary, now I'm not going to go into this very much, but pro-union labor secretary, what does the Bible talk about in regards to labor? It says that we are to labor 6 days and rest the seventh. This is the fourth commandment. The fourth commandment has to do with this. Now, let me just mention something with regards to the fourth commandment. It says that we rest the seventh. In the book of Revelation, chapter 14, it talks about those who are going to receive a mark of the beast. And it says that they have no rest, day nor night, who worship the beast and his image, and whosoever receiveth the mark of his name. So whoever receives the mark has no rest, day or night. And it's about labor, because you labor 6 days and rest the seventh. And those who take the mark of the beast are not going to rest. But there are a people who will keep the commandments of God in the faith of Jesus. And it says, yea, saith the Spirit, that they may rest from their labors, and their works do follow them. So there is a people that aren't taking the mark of the beast who do rest from their labors. They labor 6, they rest the 7th. Now, Revelation 13 talks about labor laws that are going to be made. And you consider this, that no man might buy or sell. No man might be able to trade. And that's what we're talking about here today, is trade unions. Because trade unions are going to have something to do with this. And we're going to look at this and how this all works together. but they won't be able to buy or sell save he that had the mark or the name of the beast or the number of his name. Clearly, something is coming to pass with regards to the mark of the beast, and we won't be able to trade. Now consider Donald Trump's pro-union labor secretary. We just read that labor unions and trade unions will be formed, and those who refuse to join these unions will be marked men. That was written in 1903. Interesting how we're in 2025, and this is all coming to pass today. Now, I would like you to... Oh, this is not the video I wanted. I wanted Jonathan Berry, but President Trump nominates Jonathan Berry for Solicitor of Labor. And one of the very first things that he says when he gets into office is that he wants to make Sabbath laws. Solicitor of Labor. Now, what is a Solicitor of Labor? The Solicitor of Labor is an attorney or a lawmaker, a judge, basically a lawyer. And within the office of the solicitor at the US Department of Labor, they provide legal services to the department focusing on various labor laws and regulations. And what were some of the laws that Jonathan Berry wanted to bring in? They had to do with Sabbath laws, he said. Sabbath laws. Let's listen carefully here to what he has to say.
One taken to the new Secretary of Labor, something I really encourage. I don't see a big. It's harder to see a big federal role for this. I think this is more a question of state and local law. Is reinvigorating where possible Sabbath rest laws. To be very specific, like it used to be. This was basically the norm. As best I've looked into this some. I'm working on some research on this. Really literally dating back to Constantine and his recognition of Christianity in the Roman Empire, that you've had a pretty consistent tradition in Western civilization of taking Sunday off from commerce and having a time not only for, it's not merely from rest in the sense of abstinence from work, but it's rest for time with God, time worshiping God. It's rest for time with community, and even before, in between, is time with family.
Okay, so time with community, time with family, labor laws, Sunday laws. So this is what Donald Trump has nominated again for Solicitor of Labor, one who is providing legal services to the Department of Labor, focusing on various labor laws and regulations. And of course, again, let me bring you back. Donald Trump is bringing in a pro-union labor secretary. So this all working together for something in regards to what they want to do on day one when Jonathan Berry gets elected again.
Day one, taken to the new Secretary of Labor.
So what is he taking on day one? Day one, the very first priority. And of course, he talked about this is going to be happening on a state level. And Donald Trump to governors, we're giving power back to the states, guys. Get ready. The states are going to be the ones to enforce these things. So anyways, how does this relate again to the new Pope? Definitely interesting how this is all connecting together. But he's called a working class Pope, according to this article. By his deeds and by choosing the name of the last Pope, Leo, the new Pope's Catholicism appears Christian and even social and democratic. Now, it says later that day, Buchanan, about his position on this, he cited Pope Leo's 1891 encyclical Rerum Novarum, in which the Pope had condemned both socialism and laissez-faire capitalism and said that church doctrine compelled the church to support both a living wage sufficient to support a family and workers' rights to form and join unions. Now, Rerum Novarum is an encyclical by Pope Leo XIII. And let's just take a quick look. We'll take a quick look at this. But this is why Leo XIV chose the name Leo to become Pope Leo. Because Pope Leo XIV wants to advance Catholic social teaching. And where did Catholic social teaching come from? Leo XIII. Leo XIII is the one. Now, his 1891 encyclical, that is Leo XIII, Rerum Novarum, on capital and labor, supported unions, laid the groundwork for the church's teaching on a just wage, and rejected socialism outright, while also challenging the exempted presumptions. I went over that already, just a little bit more, but I want to read a little bit of Rerum Novarum. Here, this is part 41. It says, from this follows the obligation of the cessation from work and labor on Sundays and certain holy days. So what do they want to bring in with Rerum Novarum? What are all these people that are talking about Rerum Novarum and the Pope and unions and labor laws and Pope Leo the 13th and all this other stuff? It has to do with Sunday. I'm going to show you this. We're going to put this all together today, but this is what it is. And notice it says the rest from labor is not to be understood as mere giving way to idleness. What's the Bible say about those who labor? They labor to enter into his rest. And what's his rest? Right? The wicked have no rest who take the mark of the beast. Certainly not Sunday, is it? It's not Sunday. Much less must it be an occasion for spending money and for vicious indulgence, as many would have it be. But it should be rest from labor, hallowed by religion. Rest combined with religious observances disposes man to forget for a while the business of his everyday life, to turn his thoughts to things heavenly, and to the worship which he so strictly owes to the eternal Godhead, the Trinity. It is this, above all, which is the reason, motive of Sunday rest. Of course, it revolves around worshiping the god of Babylon. Well, consider this again. In 1891, encyclical Rerum Novarum on capital and labor supported unions, laid the groundwork for the church's teachings on a just wage, and rejected socialism outright. We've already looked at this. And this is what it is. It's about unions. Coming back to this, Ellen White says, the time is fast coming when the controlling power of labor unions will be very oppressive. Again and again, the Lord has instructed that our people to take their families away from the cities into the country where they can raise their own provision, for in the future, the problem of buying and selling will be a very serious one. So when the labor unions are coming together with the church, what should we do? Church and state is uniting. There's a call. Anybody know what that call is? Revelation 18, verse 4. Come out of her, my people. Yes. Consider it carefully. Even when we look at Matthew chapter 24, you'll notice there is a message that talks about when you see the abomination of desolation spoken by Daniel standing in the holy place, then let them flee, which be in Judea, flee into the mountains. Now, what does this have to happen? What has to happen here? Abomination of desolation. Well, you can see this again in Revelation 17, where you go to verse 16. It says, the 10 horns, these shall hate the whore and make her desolate. Abomination that maketh desolate. Just consider now, this woman is called the mother of harlots and abominations. And one of those abominations is to get naked with the kings of the earth. It's called fornication. And shall eat her flesh and burn her with fire. What happened to Judea in 70 AD? It was burnt with fire. What's going to happen to Babylon at the end of the world? It's burnt with fire. Because as that was a small symbol to come out of Judea, so today we have a large scale come out of the city's message, flee out of Babylon, come out of her, my people. Why? Because she is fornicating with the kings of the earth. She's got a cup full of abominations and filthiness of her fornication, which is full of the blood of martyrs. And why are the martyrs' blood filling the cup? Persecution's coming because of her union with the kings of the earth. And when you see this union of church and state, which is going on in Revelation 18, you are to flee out of the midst of her. In other words, not just come out of the churches and the fallen churches, come out of the cities. And that's why when you see labor unions getting controlling power and church working together with them, there is a call. And there's an instruction. And what is God instructing our families to do? Get your families away from the cities. Get them out of the cities. That's the message. It's right in the Bible. Right in the Bible. Now, Kevin Roberts, of course, congratulates Cardinal Robert Prevost on his decision to take the name Leo the 14th. Kevin Roberts being the head of the Heritage Foundation. And it says he gives me high hope for the papacy. And why? Well, non-Catholics may not know, but Pope Leo the 13th he says, was an excellent pastor of his flock who led the church to engage modernity. I'm going to show you what that means here shortly. Engage modernity, modern lifestyle, modern. Has anybody ever heard of the Fourth Industrial Revolution? We'll come to that, modernity. But was an enemy of both communism and unrestrained capitalism, a staunch defender of the dignity of work and workers. His 1891 encyclical Rerum Novarum is the foundational document for Catholic social teaching and a masterpiece of political economy. Economy. Buying, selling issues, maybe. And what else does it have in that encyclical? Sunday laws. And why does he have great hope in this? Well, if Pope Leo XIV follows in the footsteps of his namesake, the church and the world will be blessed, he says. Let's keep going. Now, US Vice President Vance invites Pope Leo, an American, to visit home. What did he invite him to this week? He invited them. They've invited him to Congress even. Pope Leo is being invited to Congress, and they're petitioning him to address another joint session of Congress, similar to what Pope Francis did in 2015. Now, when you look at Vance says, my views on public policy and what the optimal state should look like are pretty aligned with Catholic social teaching. Where did Catholic social teaching come from, guys? Who's the founder of Catholic social teaching? Pope Leo XIII. Pope Leo XIII. Yes, right, exactly. Again, 5 ways Leo XIV might advance Catholic social teaching. With the May 8th election of Pope Leo XIV, many commentators noted that the last Leonine pontificate gave us Catholic social teaching. So, we've got Vance into Pope Leo XIII. We've got Kevin Roberts, who likes Pope Leo XIII, and Catholic social teaching. And of course, what? Rerum Novarum, Sunday laws. It's all fitting together. This is all the pieces are coming together here. And there's your Catholic social teaching, the Church's social teaching, part 68, the dignity of work, rest from work, social justice. And where does this all come from? Pope Leo XIII. Sunday laws. You'll notice if you read it carefully, you can go through it. It's all about Sunday laws and making Sunday laws. And what is Sunday laws to the papacy? In Revelation chapter 13, we know that the beast is the papacy. And of course, they tell us the Catholic Church claims that the change Saturday Sabbath to Sunday was her act, and the act is a mark of her ecclesiastical authority in religious things. Changing the Sabbath to Sunday is her mark. Also, Sunday is our mark of authority. The church is above the Bible, and this transference of Sabbath observance is proof of that fact. Sunday change, church is above the Bible. They don't believe the Bible. They don't accept the Bible. They're telling us straightly. And they tell us they changed the Sabbath from Saturday to Sunday. And this is a mark of their authority. And therefore, they are the author of it. Well, God authored the 10 Commandments with his finger in stone, right? Which teaches that Sabbath is not Sunday, but Saturday. It falls on the Friday to Saturday, evening to evening. But they're going to push these things. And as it says in the book of Revelation, talking about this, go back to Revelation 13. Speaking of the mark of the beast, he exercised all the power of the first beast before him, caused the earth and them which dwell therein to worship the first beast, the papacy, whose deadly wound was healed. So what are they pushing? What is Vance pushing us towards? Catholicism. He is supposed to be an American, part of the second beast, the Bible prophecy, bringing us back to worship the first beast that is going to exercise all the same power. Now consider what Vance says here.
To take away from the last 10 years is that we really need to be really ruthless when it comes to the exercise of power.
We need to be really ruthless in regards to the exercise of power. And we could go on with many more, such as Donald Trump talking about the voice of the church. The church is going to get a voice. The church is going to speak. The church is going to exercise and have power.
Is bite back on that. But for 4 years, we went through a great period. You were able to speak, and we're going to make that on a permanent basis. You're going to be able to do it because you're the people we want to hear from, the pastors and the ministers, and the rabbis, the people in this room are the people we want to hear from, and they have to have a political voice. You know, if you think about it, you have men, you have women, and you have religion. If you look at it, you have more than the men, you have more than the women. You have such power, but you weren't allowed to use that power, and you're now allowed to use it. I get in there, you're going to be using that power at a level that you've never used it before. It's going to bring back the churchgoer. I mean, you have to see, I don't like the charts when I see charts where they're going in the wrong direction.
The same power as the first beast, church and state union. And remember what Donald Trump said, is church and state union really that bad? Didn't he say that last week? And of course, he puts an image of himself as the Pope up on his Twitter, an image of gold of himself, image to the beast. That's what's being formed, exercising all the power of the first beast before him. And again, let's just read this. He exercised all the power of the first beast before him, caused the earth and them which dwell therein to worship the first beast, the papacy, whose deadly wound was healed. He doeth great wonders, so that he makes fire come down from heaven on the earth in the sight of men. We can see this in the charismatic movement, fire from heaven, counterfeit tongues, counterfeit miracles, as we see. And then they say, let's make an image of the beast. Let's make a very similar copy of what the first beast was, a church and state union like the first beast. And he had power to give life to the image of the beast, that the image of the beast should both speak and cause that as many as would not worship the image of the beast should be killed. And this is what the spirit is. And I'm going to share with you a little bit here in a second about that, because that is the spirit behind this union. First American Pope is viewed as an ally for global workers. His name, chosen based on Pope Leo XIII, reflects his embrace on ministry of mutual aids and leads many to think he will champion issues of economic justice and embrace of co-workers and unions, just like Pope Leo XIII did during his papacy. Workers, unions, economic justice. What's going to bring on the mark of the beast? Unions. What kind of economic justice are we going to get? If you don't go along with it, you should be killed. If you don't go along with it, you won't be allowed to buy or sell. If you don't go along with it, basically, you're going to be left out of society. This is what we're looking at here as we form an image of the beast that they're forming. So economic justice, consider the World Economic Forum. Here's the Pope's prescription for resetting the global economy in response to COVID-19. Now, some of you have heard of the Great Reset, the Fourth Industrial Revolution, Klaus Schwab, the World Economic Forum. You will own nothing and you will be happy. Some of you know the sayings of some of these World Economic Forum leaders like Klaus Schwab. Now, we're going to look at this a little bit, but of course, not only is Klaus Schwab working to do this, but the Pope, of course, is working together to help to reset the global economy, the Great Reset. And that's what we're coming into here. We're going to take a look at this and consider how this is going to come to pass. Now, this is from the World Economic Forum as well. What kind of currency do we expect in the future in this Great Reset? It says a digital currency should be adopted as the world's leading reserve currency. So what we're looking at is basically a digital currency. Now, a welfare state is coming, basically, and we'll explain this. And of course, the Pope is involved with the World Economic Forum in resetting the global economy, the Great Reset, as we continue. Now, why Leo, new Pope, shows support for workers and labor unions. Consider this. It says to bridge the chasm, Leo XIII in 1891 used the platform of the papacy to offer a spirited defense of union organizing and the rights of workers in his seminal encyclical Rerum Novarum. That's what it's in all these articles. You go through the internet and it's all over the internet. There's hundreds of articles on Rerum Novarum, unions coming together, and why the Pope chose his name. Why Leo? Why did he choose this name? Because it has to do with Leo XIII and Sunday laws and unions. And that's what we're moving towards. Pope Leo's name carries a warning about the rise of AI. Now, this is going to help you understand what's going on here with regards to AI. Listen carefully here. It says his name is a potential path forward. Leo XIII, during his papacy, laid out a vision for protecting workers against tech-induced consolidation. That's the previous Leo, right? Including minimum wage laws and trade unions. Minimum wage laws and trade unions. His ideas soon gained influence and were implemented in government policies around the world. Now, what do you think is coming out of this next pope? Minimum wage laws? Maybe a universal basic income? Maybe a universal basic income out of digital technologies and trade unions working together, you know, kind of like the Pharaoh in time past, trade unions. But it all leads to, obviously, slavery if you really look closely. But again, furthermore, it says at the heart of Leo's name choice is Leo XIII's former letter, Rerum Novarum, which he wrote in August in 1891. At the time, the Industrial Revolution was upending society. The Industrial Revolution was upending society. Now, what are we looking at now? An industrial revolution, a fourth industrial revolution. You know, there's a book by Klaus Schwab called The Fourth Industrial Revolution. And he says the fourth industrial revolution will affect the very essence of our human experience. Why is it going to affect the very essence of our human experience? What's coming in? Why did Pope Leo choose his name again? Because of the warning about the rise of AI. That's what it was, because of AI, artificial intelligence, right? So he chose his name because there was an industrial revolution taking place. And we're looking at the fourth industrial revolution here. Let's just listen to what Klaus Schwab has to say about this future that we're looking forward to.
The future is built by us, by a powerful community as you here in this room. We have the means to improve the states of the world. But two conditions are necessary. The first one is that we act all as stakeholders of larger communities, that we serve not our only self-interests, but we serve the community. That's what we call stakeholder responsibility. The future is built by us.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, of course, he's serving everybody. Same with the Vatican as well, where we're told the Vatican task force says millions risk hunger problems during pandemic, calls for creative solidarity. See the word there, solidarity? I'm going to share with you something that's just it's going to kind of blow your mind here in a few minutes about solidarity. Somebody who's talking about solidarity, we'll come to it in a second. They might be a Seventh-day Adventist, and I'll share who it is here in a few minutes. But anyways, in regards to solidarity, they said that in their task force's recent meeting with Pope Francis, he asked us to prepare the future. Not to prepare for the future, but to prepare the future. We're the ones that build the future. So where is this all coming from? This solidarity and preparing and building the future from? It's coming from men like Klaus Schwab and the Pope. We build the future. And I'll show you what I mean here in a second. But Pope Leo the 14th will be a second Pope Francis, his brother said. So he's not much different. So what Pope Francis said there is not much different to what we're looking at in regards to Pope Leo the 14th. Let's just listen to this little video clip here in regards to Rerum Novarum and AI and labor laws.
It chose to take the name Pope Leo the 14th. There are different reasons for this, mainly because Pope Leo XIII, in his historic encyclical, Rerum Novarum, addressed the social question in the context of the first great industrial revolution. Today, the Church offers to everyone the treasury of social teaching to respond
Catholic social
to another industrial revolution into the development in the field of artificial intelligence that pose new challenges for the defense of human dignity, justice, and labor.
Okay, pause it right there. Justice, labor, AI, human dignity, Rerum Novarum, all this connects together as to why he's taking the name. You catching all of this? This is all connected.
Pope Leo XIII, advocate for the working class. In an era of industrial transformation, when the plight of the working class cried out for justice, a voice of compassion rose from the Vatican. Pope Leo XIII, advocate for the working class, was a pontiff who championed the dignity of labor and the rights of the oppressed, weaving the teachings of the Church into the fabric of modern society. Born Vincenzo Gioacchino Pecci in 1810 in Carpineto Romano, his early life was marked by a sharp intellect and a deep sense of empathy.
In Rerum Novarum, Pope Leo XIII.
All right, so trade unions will be one of the agencies that will bring on this earth a time of trouble such as never has since the world began. We've been told these things. We know these things that are coming. So what's the future look like? Well, car-free Sundays is a good start, right? We've been talking about some of these things. Cities testing car-free Sundays. People are happier in a walkable neighborhood. U.S. communities ban cars. Welcome to 2030. I own nothing, have no privacy, and life has never been better. This is the World Economic Forum. Klaus Schwab, I don't own a car. Notice, they're not going to own cars anymore, right? I don't own a house. I don't own my appliances or any clothes. That's the future that is coming right now that they're looking forward to. Now, let's listen here to Tucker Carlson before we move on.
FTX's collapse, every major bank in this country announced a new partnership with the New York Fed to establish a new digital currency. Oh, digital currency, the one they can regulate and control. Citigroup, Wells Fargo, MasterCard, HSBC, all working on a 12-week digital dollar pilot. So what does this mean long term? Well, if they have control of your money because it's digital, you can't stash it under your bed. If they don't like what you say, they can turn it off and you're impoverished. In other words, this whole thing is a bigger scam even than it seems, and it was made possible by political sloganeering. And Sam Bankman-Fried, if nothing else, is not stupid, and he knows that well. In other words, if you suspected all of this was a scam, all the moral posturing, all the lectures you get about how they're great and you're bad, this was all a way to blind you to the fact that there was a massive ripoff going on, you might be on the right track.
Yeah. You might be catching what's going on with regards to the events that are taking place here. Humanity's next leap, quantum AI, UBI, and fair chance for all. What's AI? Artificial intelligence. What's UBI? It is a why am I thinking of it right now? Universal basic income. UBI, universal basic income. And so this is what they're moving towards, and it's a government program in which every adult citizen receives a set amount of money regularly. Now, who came up with the minimum wage issue? Pope Leo XIII, minimum wage and unions, right? Labor unions working together for minimum wage. Yes, exactly. And what are we getting to here with regards to universal basic income? Well, minimum wage, everybody's going to be getting minimum wage here soon. Not just minimum wage, but everybody's going to have a maximum wage. It's all going to be everybody gets the same. It's called communism. And Don's Early Light Heritage Foundation, talking about the golden age, he says now he's going to do what no other Republican leader would do, usher in a new golden age. I'm going to just kind of skip through that. But what is this golden age? Who did Trump give money to usher in this golden age, this Babylonian age? Anybody remember Larry Ellison and all these AI guys? $500 billion was given to push AI into the limelight, to give them power. Yeah, they're smiling because they know what they're doing. It's just something's behind this all. Unfortunately, let's just listen here and I'll let this one play.
Because this is as you said yesterday, this is the beginning of golden age. The beginning of golden age. Last month I came to celebrate your winning and promised that we will invest $100 billion. And you told me, oh, Masa, go for 200. Yeah. Now I came back with 500. Because this is as you said yesterday, this is the beginning of golden age.
Golden age. $500 billion invested in AI. Now, World Economic Forum and the UN signed strategic partnership framework. They're working together hand in hand, and they want to bring in digital identity certifications, right to work, right to rent, criminal record checks. This is all coming to pass in many countries already. These things are part of the plan to build back better. And for some who think Donald Trump was just getting Klaus Schwab and company out of the way so he could bring in what? Larry Ellison and company, the other AI experts. Who else do we got? Elon Musk, right? Elon Musk, robots will take your jobs. Government will have to pay your wage. So what's going to happen if and who's building the robots? Isn't Elon Musk building robots? And so he's telling us there's going to be a minimum wage. There's going to be a new industrial revolution taking place. Same thing. Okay, they're both the same. They're both on the same side. They can play both sides. Yeah, here's Yuval Noah Harari. He says the same thing as Elon Musk. Most humans will become economically useless and politically powerless. We are beginning to see a new class of humans, the useless class. The useless class. So what's going to happen then if we're useless? Well, the more of us we can get rid of, the better. Population control, right? Population control. So they're coming together in solidarity for these types of things. Now, these formings of these labor unions are determined to have their own way. Violence and death mean nothing to them if their unions are opposed. Yeah, death, the dead class. Exactly. Useless eaters. They're in the way. You don't like our unions? You don't like the AI? You don't like this? Well, you don't mean too much. You're just a part of the useless class of useless eaters. So the more of you we can get rid of, the better. So he works, again, Yuval Harari, for the World Economic Forum. And they're all kind of working together with the UN and with others. Now, I want to share with you something here, because the World Economic Forum is calling for merging of human and AI intel to censor hate speech and misinformation. Some of you might have been here last week. We were talking about the serpent and even the Pope and what he was talking about with regards to censoring our speech. That it was about quieting us. The serpent casting out of the mouth a flood of waters. But what's hate speech to them? What is hate speech to them? Well, let's listen to Yuval Harari of the World Economic Forum.
People won't even think that something so big can be a lie. And I think that fake news have been with us for thousands of years. Just think of the Bible.
Yeah, the Bible. Of course, he's a homosexual, practicing homosexual. And of course, wouldn't the Bible be hate speech, since it has verses in the Bible that have to do with homosexuality? And also, since that's the case, it is hate speech. And since it's hate speech, well, we also would class that among things that are fake news. And so they're going to make laws against the Bible coming soon. Of course, the papacy doesn't care about the Bible, does it? Right? But fake news. World Economic Forum advisor claims the planet no longer needs the vast majority of the population. Now, with regards to population, this is going to get interesting here. The United Nations has a population fund. It's the UN's primary agency addressing population issues, focusing on reproductive health, family planning, and related development changes. Now, reproductive health, family planning, some of you know about the family planning that they talk about, and that's abortion and other things like that, right? That's depopulation. It's the population fund, okay? And they work together with ECOSOC in collaboration with UN agencies like the WHO, UNICEF, and UN AIDS, right? In Africa and other places. And somebody was talking about Africa. I didn't put the part in about Africa here, but this man is from the General Conference, and he stands up for our religious liberty. He's part of our religious liberty organization. Now, remember the Pope was talking about solidarity and other things like that. We're gonna take a look at a couple things first before we do. This is actually the United Nations Population Fund, and they're having a meeting online. And there's this SDAs are involved in this. I'm going to share with you a little bit. Let's just listen first, not just SDAs, but also the World Council of Churches standing in solidarity. Let's listen carefully here.
Didigo with the United Nations Population Fund, and it is my pleasure and my honor to welcome you to the 11th Annual Symposium on the role of religion and faith-based organizations in international affairs. And I welcome you on behalf of the organizations that have co-sponsored this auspicious event, ACT Alliance, the General Board of Church and Society of the United Methodist Church, Islamic Relief USA, the Seventh-day Adventist Church, and of course, in close partnership with the United Nations Interagency Task Force on Religion and Development, of which UNFPA is one of them, along with UNAOC, UNDP, and 20 plus other member entities.
Hello, everybody. My name is Peter Prove. I'm Director for International Affairs at the World Council of Churches. It's hard to believe that this is already the 11th edition of this annual symposium, which was begun in 2014 as an initiative of a group of faith-based organizations that work in relation to the United Nations system. But already from 2016, it evolved into a full partnership between those faith-based organizations and the UN system, in particular through the UN Interagency Task Force on Religion and Sustainable Development.
Okay, hopefully you caught a few of those points, but this is the UN Population Fund. This is about too many people are on the planet, right? And so they're working together with the churches, the World Council of Churches, the SDA Church, as well as in collaboration, and they're all working together with the UN. This is called a church and state union. This is called Revelation 17. Babylon is committing fornication with the kings of the earth, right? And who's part of this? Well, the General Conference of Seventh-day Adventists. We'll come to that in their Religious Liberty Department. Let's look at the next part here.
Therefore, governments, religious leaders, and a wide range of civil society actors, we all need to work together and build bridges for upholding human dignity and equality for all.
Build bridges to uphold human dignity and equality. Equality, equal wages, right? Universal basic income, maybe. We're building bridges. Building bridges. What are we building bridges for? Well, we'll come to that in 1 second. I want to play this next one. Let's see what he talks about with regards to building bridges.
We need a whole of society approach and initiatives to promote a culture of peace based on human rights, to address the root causes and build communities in which expressions of hatred are socially unacceptable.
Hatred. Are you teaching that the Antichrist is the papacy? Are you speaking that LGBT might be wrong? Have you said something against abortions? Have you spoken against our holy order? And have you spoken against the General Conference even? Hatred, right? Hate speech. Now, so they're building bridges to get rid of hate speech. Some of you were here last week. You watched the message in regards to hate speech, and you might remember not Pope Francis, but the other Pope here, sitting in Satan's Hall. I know some people had a problem with me calling it Serpent's Hall. No, it's a hall that is at the Vatican, and I did call it Serpent's Hall because he sits in between the two fangs of the serpent, and the hall's shape is actually shaped like a serpent. But out of that is the tongue of the serpent, and there's this demonic spirit coming out of the mouth of the dragon, out of the mouth of the serpent, right? That's what we see in Revelation 12 and 16, where there's spirits of devils coming out of the mouth of the old serpent. But this is one of them right here, and it is the Pope, a demonic source. And here he is speaking from the mouth of the dragon right here. And let's just listen to what he said in regards to hate speech.
This mission becomes ever more necessary. Let us disarm communication of all prejudice and resentment, fanaticism, and even hatred. Let us free it from aggression. We do not need loud, forceful communication.
Okay, so what kind of hate speech are they going to outlaw? Well, the Bible is a part of that, right? As we talked with Yuval Harari about and other things like that. These things are hate speech because they speak against the papacy. They tell us that the papacy is the man of sin. They teach that the papacy is the Antichrist. They teach that the papacy is the first beast of Revelation. They totally expose the papacy as Babylon, the mother of harlots. So, of course, this is going to be outlawed as hate speech. And they don't want the Bible being preached anymore. They have their own religion, which is a Babylonian religion, completely separate from the Bible. But I want you to hear the next speaker here at the World Population control headquarters of the UN. And it's actually somebody well known in SDA circles, the head of the Religious Liberty Department of General Conference of Seventh-day Adventists. And of course, he has a problem with some of the things that we've said in regards to some of his positions that he takes. He says, I no longer preach the three angels' messages. And of course, you can't preach the three angels' messages because the three angels' messages has nothing to do with uniting church and state, which is exactly what he's doing, uniting with the UN. Of course, he doesn't preach the second angel, Babylon is fallen, come out of her, she's fornicating with the United Nations. How can you preach that if you're part of the United Nations and in a union with the United Nations? You definitely can't preach the three angels' messages. So let's just listen to what he has to say here.
He's the Director of Public Affairs and Religious Liberty for the Seventh-day Adventist Church.
This year, 2025, can be considered a landmark, actually, of partnership between faith organizations, UN agencies, for the betterment of our world.
A landmark, a partnership that is going to be for the betterment of our world. The Seventh-day Adventists and UN coming together with the World Council of Churches in 2025. And of course, he talks about a meeting that they're having in May. Let's just play the next part here.
Is this one just another symposium, another webinar by people of goodwill wanting to make contributions to make our world more just and overall?
Is this just a bunch of people who have goodwill in their hearts? No, this is far more than that, according to Ganoon Diop. This is like for the betterment of our world. Now, he talks about Africa and going to Africa, which is kind of what was mentioned earlier about, the UN, stuff like that, all their work in Africa. But let's keep going.
Human and humane. In spite of the disintegration of human solidarity globally, we must continue to call for more justice, more solidarity, more...
Let me just stop here. You hear the word solidarity a couple times there? Didn't we talk about this already? Let's just play back a bit.
More human and humane. In spite of the disintegration of human solidarity globally, we must continue to call for more justice, more solidarity.
So there's a disintegration of solidarity. We must continue to call for more solidarity. What is this talking about? This is the same words that the papacy said earlier. This is no different. It's the same.
Peace. I am very grateful, by the way, that the WCC will convene very soon in May a commemorative ecumenical conference at a time when there are growing calls from around the world to revisit historic injustices.
Let's just stop here. He just said again, he's very grateful that in May, the World Council of Churches is coming together. And it's another historic visit to injustices and atrocities around the world, that they're coming together to basically save the world. The World Council of Churches working together as another ecumenical conference to bring solidarity together. This is the Religious Liberty Department's, the head of the Religious Liberty Department of Seventh-day Adventists. And if you've ever read The Great Controversy, you know that the Catholic Church is a foe to religious liberty. She will never change. There's an entire chapter 35, on religious liberty and the dangers that threaten religious liberty. And one of those dangers, obviously, is the head of the Religious Liberty Department himself, Ganoon Diop. I'm sad to say, but he needs to repent and truly repent and really come out of her, my people. And anybody who's under this needs to come out of it as well, because you are being united to Babylon. That's why he didn't stand for us during the recent pandemic. Of course they won't, because they don't believe and truly understand religious liberty at all. They don't believe in freedom of choice to choose whether or not you should really be able to do these things. And they don't really support your freedom of choice. And that's why they didn't write any letters to help people who were in trouble with the government. Anyways.
Many people through enslavement, colonization, imperialism, and evangelization, even more fundamentally,
his problems with evangelization.
Is human.
He has problems with evangelization, I said, and of course.
Basically, the relinquishing of one's human solidarity. If we ask ourselves, what kind of future do we want? What does it mean to be really a human being? To feel that we have solidarity, thanks to humanity, and what we are able to do together. And may it continue, and so that we can heal our societies, heal ourselves.
Mm-hmm. Heal ourselves. I don't know if anybody remembers in the encyclical of Pope Francis, where he talks about Sunday is a day where we heal ourselves, heal our society, and heal our wounds, basically the healing of the deadly wound. But this is really what they're working towards, the healing of the deadly wound, right? Because they're all coming together in solidarity, but not just the World Council of Churches are coming together in solidarity, but they're coming together with the papacy. So really the healing of the deadly wound involves not just the World Council of Churches and the apostate Protestants with the papacy. It includes Ganoun Diop and company healing the deadly wound and coming together in union with the papacy and with the United Nations. This is what we're watching take place right here. And it is an eye-opener. May God help us to truly discern where this is leading here. But this is, it's all the same language that we've been looking from Yuval Harari, from Klaus Schwab, from the Pope Leo XIII, from the United Nations. They're all working in one accord with one mind, as it says in Revelation chapter 17. Let me just go here. And I know some people say, don't call the church Babylon. That's not the church. The General Conference is a new organization built on sand. God has a church. It's built on a rock. Don't mix them up. God's church is not built on sand. He doesn't build houses on sand. This organization, the General Conference, is going to be swept away by storm and tempest. It is fornicating with the kings of the earth, no different than the great whore of Babylon. She's in union, and the union has to do, as we read, the 10 horns, the United Nations. She's in union with them. And what you saw, these are 10 kings, which have received no kingdom as yet, but will receive power as kings 1 hour with the beast. This is what we're looking for. And these have one mind. They're all in solidarity together. And they give their power and strength to the beast, which is Lucifer, the dragon, that old serpent, the devil. They get their power from him, but they give their power and strength to him. And the devil and the dragon shall make war with them, with the Lamb, and overcome them. But the Lamb shall overcome them. He is Lord of lords, King of kings, and they that are with him are called and chosen and faithful. And we have to understand this. The 10 horns, what you see upon the beast, the United Nations, these are what make the papacy desolate and naked. And we're not just the papacy, but the 10 horns, they make this church desolate and naked. It's naked. Put your clothes back on. This is fornication. Come out of her, my people. Anyway, talking about bridge builders, because that was part of the conversation here. Bridge builders. Pope Leo is known as a bridge builder, quiet reformer. How Pope Leo will lead the Catholic Church. And I talked about building bridges with a couple weeks ago with regards to the apostate Protestants and the Reformation and the healing of the deadly wound. And all of that is working together. There was just so many key points that God is showing us in regards to this power that's going to exercise all the power of the first beast before him, whose deadly wound was healed. This is all coming to pass. Pope Leo XIV lays out vision of papacy and identifies AI as the main challenge for humanity. AI as the main challenge. Now, those forming the labor unions are determined to have their way. Violence and death mean nothing to them if their unions are opposed. That's what we're going to see as these unions come to pass. Now, a little bit more about the AI. 19th century Catholic teachings and 21st century tech. How concerns about AI guided Pope Leo's choice of name. So it's all about AI, because AI is going to take over all the jobs, and there's going to be coming an issue where no man might buy or sell, and AI is going to control all this. But this is what it says. Pope Leo XIII, who died in 1903, less obvious, however, was what inspired his choice: the rise of artificial intelligence down here at the yellow, it says Leo XIII applied Catholic tradition to the Industrial Revolution in a historic encyclical called Rerum Novarum, which became the founding document of modern Catholic economics. In our day, Leo XIV said, the church offers to everyone the treasury of her social teaching in response to another industrial revolution and developments in the field of artificial intelligence that pose new challenges for the defense of human dignity, justice, and labor. Labor unions, Fourth Industrial Revolution, what else have we seen? Trade unions, no buying and selling, Rerum Novarum, Catholic economics. It's all working together. This is all one. And AI, all in one package that's being brought out here. We're moving towards these Sunday laws. Some of you might remember the AI ethics expert, the Vatican's top AI ethics expert who advises Pope Francis, the UN, and Silicon Valley. And it might seem like an oxymoron, but the Vatican's top brain on the technology most shaping our world just now hails from a medieval order. Well, this is going to get interesting here. Let's just listen carefully and consider, because he is of the Franciscan order. Some of you might know Microsoft first reached out to Benanti several years ago on his thoughts on technology. He says it is a problem not of using AI, but is the problem of governance, the friar said. And here is where ethics come in. Finding the right level of use inside of social context. So they're worried about ethics. And therefore, in order to govern it, we need people from a medieval Christian Catholic order that actually ran the Inquisition. These people ran the Inquisition, just so you know. Inquisitors. They would go through towns and basically just ask questions as to whether you were associated with somebody who was a heretic. And they would make sure to shut you up because that was hate speech. Did you speak against the papacy during the Dark Ages? Those were hate speech people. And their speech was taken away. And it was in a way that didn't just take it away and just put them in jail or anything like that. It was death. Death was the result of speaking against the papacy. And so these orders that want to control AI are actually papal orders. Pope Leo XIV is the first Augustinian pontiff. Here's what the religious order means. Here's what the religious order means. What does it mean? Well, the Franciscans, mendicant religious orders. He's also part of a mendicant religious order, Augustinian order. Franciscans worked as inquisitors in 1236, and they were the inquisitors. They were authorized to use torture to extract confessions as approved by Pope Innocent IV in 1252. Furthermore, what is an Augustinian? Well, according to Augustinian Vocations of North America, Augustinians are members of the Order of St. Augustine. The order was born juridically in March 1244 during the Inquisition, when Pope Innocent IV united various groups of hermits in service to the universal church as a community of mendicant friars. Now, let's read the Great Controversy for 1 second. I want you just to listen about mendicant friars. She says, another evil against which the reformer waged long and resolute battle, talking about John Wycliffe, was the institution of the orders of the mendicant friars. The Augustine order is a mendicant friar. These friars swarmed in England, casting a blight upon the greatness and prosperity of the nation. What do you think is going to happen in America, guys? You know, all these things are written for our admonition upon whom the ends of the world are come. So it says industry, education, morals, all felt the withering influence. What do you think is going to feel the withering influence in America? Industry, education, morals, all of them. It says, by the influence of the friars, many were induced to enter a cloister and devote themselves to monastic life. And this not only without the consent of their parents, but even without their knowledge and contrary to their commands. There's a lot more to that book. If anybody wants to get into it, it's a great book, The Great Controversy. Highly recommend it. It tells us what's coming to pass right now. Just as it happened in those times, so it happens today. These mendicant orders, and it sounds Jesuitical. We'll come to that in 1 second, because that's where we're going. But metaverse, speeding up timeline for emulating dead people, well, that will be no problem, right? emulating dead people, having dead people come to life so you can speak to your lost loved ones. Of course, I've talked about what this might be. And spirits of devils maybe coming out. The AI God will emerge by 2042, write its own Bible. Certainly the Bible is hate speech to most of the people in charge now, so that wouldn't be a problem with them. And they have a church called the First Church of Artificial Intelligence, where they say humans are in charge of the planet because we are smarter than other animals and are able to build tools and apply rules. In the future, if something is much, much smarter, there's going to be a transition as to who is actually in charge. What we want is the peaceful, serene transition of control of the planet from humans to whatever, and to ensure that whatever knows that we helped it get along, because we don't want to be destroyed. Furthermore, do you want your pet to be a pet? Do you want to be a pet or livestock, he asks. We give pets medical attention, food, grooming, and entertainment. But an animal that's biting you, attacking you, barking and being annoying, I don't want to go there, he says. So what do they do with bad pets that are biting you and rabid and speaking against their owner, coming against their owner? They put them to sleep, you know? And interestingly, what do you think is going to happen when you start speaking against AI? And start speaking against AI, because AI is run by a mendicant order of friars who are actually Jesuits, and you start to speak against Sunday laws, or you start to speak against the Pope, or you start to speak against what's going on in light of the day, right? They can control your speech. And as Tucker Carlson said earlier, they can control your money. They can control whether or not you have money. They can control your bank account. That's what we're coming into right now. We are moving into this new technology that is going to control and enforce the mark of the beast. It's all part of the future, and it's coming very, very rapidly. Now, Great Controversy 606, it says, as the question of enforcing Sunday observance is widely agitated, is it being widely agitated now? The event so long doubted and disbelieved is seen to be approaching, and the third message will produce an effect which it could not have had before. Are you guys ready to stand up and start having an effect? God wants us to truly get these messages out, and this message has to do with Babylon is fallen, come out over my people, the mark of the beast being enforced. That's the third angel's message. And of course, the faith of Jesus. Now we're coming back to the Jesuits here, celebrating the life of Pope Francis, the first Jesuit Pope. Now you might remember that he was the first Pope to come to America and speak on behalf of Congress. And Pope Leo met with Vance. He's delivered an invitation to visit the White House. He's coming too, Pope Leo. And he's going to be the second. And he's from this new order of mendicant friars, right? Now, where do the mendicants ultimately get their training from? I'm just going to share with you a little bit of the first man to invite the Pope to speak before Congress. And this is, it's not coming to my mind again.
I walk in the Speaker's office, and there are 20 gentlemen in there representing every Protestant faith known to man. And so Dr. Land was the head of the Southern Baptist Leadership Conference. And
Boner.
He said, Congressman, are you inviting the Pope here as the head of the Catholic Church, or are you inviting the Pope here as the head of state? Well, remembering my training at Xavier, said, Dr. Land, he'd be coming here as the head of state. Well, congratulations. We're all for you. Okay.
That was an important distinction.
Yes, it was.
Yeah.
Okay. And what is he coming as? The head of the state? Why did he have to say the head of the state, not the head of the church? Anybody know? How about the Second Amendment of the Constitution? Right? The Second Amendment of the Constitution says no law should be made respecting religion. Nobody should. Ultimately, it was a Protestant nation. It was based on Protestant principles. And so, anyways, he said he remembered his training. What was he trained in? Well, he's trained in understanding the Great Controversy from the perspective of the Jesuits. And they understand what they're doing. They are making war with the people. So he was trained and remembered his training from Xavier, Jesuit university, right? That's the university that he went to. And so considering this is again great controversy. 235, under various disguises, the Jesuits worked their way into offices of state. He was the third highest ranked person in the world, basically, in the United States. He was the Speaker of the House of Congress. And it says, climbing up to be the counselors of kings and shaping the policy of nations. Well, policy 2025, they became servants to act as spies upon their masters. They established colleges for their sons of princes and nobles and schools for the common people. And the children of Protestant parents were drawn into observance of popish rites. You see how this is all coming to pass now? It's the same thing. We're watching history being repeated, no different than what it did back then. Popish rights, Sunday laws, pushing church and state unions. And of course, church and state union is not a big deal these days. It's not even an issue. Abraham Lincoln, and speaking of the Jesuits, he said this. He said, I'm so glad to meet you again, talking to Chiniquy. He said, you see that your friends, the Jesuits, have not yet killed me, but they would have surely done it when time I passed through their most devoted city, Baltimore. 50 years in the Church of Rome, Charles Chiniquy. Now, President Lincoln also said regarding the Jesuits, if the American people could learn what I know of the fierce hatred of the priests of Rome against our institutions, our schools, our most sacred rights, and our so dearly bought liberties, they would drive them out as traitors if they knew. But yet, they had a Jesuit Pope speak in the Congress of the United States. And of course, as we just looked at here, it seems like even the head of state and the head of Congress was trained by Jesuits at a Jesuit academy. And when he brought this Jesuit Pope in, he was actually not even telling us that, he was the head of the church. He's just coming as the head of state. Donald Trump's pro-union Secretary of Labor. Sorry, 1 second, guys. One sec. All right. Now, I want to come back to this last point here, and I got a few points I want to make before we finish here. Bernie Sanders vows to reintroduce bill reducing the work week, 32 hours. Some of you might know that there was a bill last year to reduce the work week to 32 hours, and it didn't fully get passed. But anyways, I want you to hear a little bit about it. This is Senator Murphy.
A pretty wild thing happening in America today. In 2000, 70% of Americans belonged to a religious institution, but today that number is 50%. This has been a pretty precipitous decline in the ability or willingness of Americans to go to church or to a religious institution on a regular basis. And I think that has lots of broad impacts in our society. But there are a lot of reasons for that. But one of them is that Americans just have less free time. When you have to work 70 hours to get the same standard of living for your family that 40 hours would have gotten you a few decades ago, you don't have time to go to Wednesday night Bible study. You might not have the ability to even attend church or services on a Sunday. You can talk about church if you want or if you don't want, but it is just true that some of the leisure time activities, some of the institutions that Americans found value and meaning in are less accessible when you have to work these long hours.
Okay, we're going to connect this back to the unions, and I'm going to bring this up in a second as to where this comes from, because it all connects. 32-hour work week for Sundays, and it all connects to AI as well. Bernie Sanders brought this bill in because what he believes is going to happen here is that all the big tech people are going to benefit from AI, and he wants people to be able to benefit from AI as well. He's saying, so the worker should benefit, and basically this is how it's going to come in, and we're going to get a universal basic income coming out of this. But let's just keep going here.
I'd love to just hear your thoughts on that.
Yeah, I mean, one of the biggest, it's one of the things we talked about with the 32-hour work week when we put that in our contract talks was the fact that we wanted to create work-life balance.
Work-life balance. Okay, work-life balance. Now I want to just talk about Mr. Fain, because Mr. Fain is actually Sean Fain, and he says we need a political movement for workers. He is the United Auto Workers president, and he runs the United Auto Workers Union. Sean Fain explains his union position on tariffs. And what do you think he thought about the tariffs? Well, he explained why he supported Trump's tariffs. This is a liberal supporting Trump's tariffs. Fain supported Democrat Kamala Harris with a fiery convention speech in 2024 and opposes many of Trump's stances on union labor, but contends the president struck a blow that leaders of parties have resisted for decades. And what is that? Well, it had to do with the tariffs, bringing the tariffs in. And this is all going to result in a benefit to the unions. Watch how this is going to work here, because this is, why do you think Fain is for this? Why do you think he's going for this? And the United Auto Workers Union are going for this because the unions know that even though Trump might sit there and say, I stand against the unions, the reality is he doesn't. And we just talked about how he put somebody into the labor department who is pro-union, who's going to be in charge of this. That's Donald Trump's pro-union labor secretary now. But work-life balance for keeping Sunday.
Contract talks was the fact that we wanted to create work-life balance and
work-life balance. Let's go on here. Bernie Sanders 32-hour work week. I'm not going to play this, but what is he doing this for? A better work-life balance. You'll notice this right down below. The United Auto Workers Union push for a 32-hour work week in negotiations for what they viewed as better work-life balance. And 71% of Americans support the idea of a 4-day work week, while only 4% oppose it, which means that it's going to come. It's coming here soon. But EU bishops call for nations to protect work-free Sundays. This is Vatican news. Why work-free Sunday? Well, this is Sunday laws, right? What is the point here? And if you read the article, it says the alliance says this increases stress on workers and affects their work-life balance. They're not getting enough time to have work-life balance. And of course, Sunday laws revolves around a day of rest. According to the network, which includes more than 100 national Sunday alliances, trade unions, employers' organizations, civil society associations, churches, and religious communities in the European Union, a full day of rest per week is indispensable to recover. So the workers' unions working towards work-life balance is Sunday laws. And of course, Trump, yes, he can speak out of both sides of his mouth. That's exactly how this is going to work. So let's just keep going here. National Catholic Register, work-life balance. So the 32-hour work week revolves around work-life balance. That's what the unions are telling us. Advice for attaining peacefulness in daily routines and within our souls. Keeping Sunday holy. Keeping holy the Sabbath to Sunday holy is not a suggestion, but a commandment. It's all about work-life balance. European Sunday Alliance. What are they coming together for? 20 work-free Sundays, right? And if you read on, it says joint statement of the European Sunday Alliance on the occasion of the annual European Day for a work-free Sunday. And it says on March 3rd, 2021. Why March 3rd, 2021? Well, on March 3rd, 321 AD, Emperor Constantine decreed Sunday to be a day of rest protected by law. 1700 years ago when Sunday laws were made. So work-free Sundays. But you go down here and you read it, it says this is especially relevant in times where the COVID-19 pandemic has accelerated existing challenges of digitalization, AI by chance, by intensifying work and extending working hours, thus putting a healthy work-life balance at risk for more people. And so it goes on to talk about Constantine decreeing Sunday as a day protected by law. And so Sunday laws. See, the trade unions will be one of the agencies that will bring upon the earth a time of trouble such as not been since the world began. Country living. Come out over my people. Get out of the cities. Right? Page 10. But anyways, Bernie Sanders, 32-hour work week to redefine American work-life balance. What is it about? It doesn't matter if you're Trump or you're Bernie Sanders. They're all working together for the same thing, work-life balance. When they wanted to do the strike, it wasn't about wages. It was about work-life balance, driving a potentially massive railroad strike. Some of you might know that the railroad strike almost shut down the entire economy. Their unions, major freight carriers weren't resolved at this time, but it all had to do with Bernie Sanders. Railway workers want paid more, and vowed to leave by December 9th, 2022, if a deal is not reached with rail companies. So work-life balance, 32-hour work week, unions. See, the unions are working together. And this is really, work-life balance revolves around Sunday laws. Bernie Sanders rallies striking federal workers in nod to Pope. What does he say here? Senators, inequality is the root of evil. Pope Francis. So where are they working with? Who are they working with? Bernie Sanders praises Pope Francis ahead of Vatican visit. Sanders blocked proposal to force rail unions to accept labor deal. So he tried to stop it to force them to accept the labor deal, 32-hour work week, stuff like that. He's all been working on Sundays affects safety, health, and work-life balance. Same thing was happening in France. French economy was trying to shut down, and unions were vowing total shutdown from retirement age. Unions. It all has to do with unions, putting the country to a standstill. And, this is something that I think that is important for us as God's people to truly understand, since this is part of the loud cry message, the third angel's message, which men like Ganoon Diop are not preaching. And of course, some other people might have a problem with me saying some of the things I said today. But the reality is this is all part of what relates to the coming mark of the beast, forced worship. Now, this is what Ellen White says. She says, God has spoken and his word is reliable, and we must rest our faith upon it. Thus saith the Lord. God would have us study the events that are taking place around us. Compare them with the predictions of his word. Go and compare them with the great controversy. Go and compare them with the Bible, and you'll find that everything that's taking place around us is basically been prophesied. In order that we may understand that we are living in the last days, we want our Bibles and we want to know what is written therein. The diligent student of prophecy will be rewarded with clear revelations of truth, for Jesus said, thy word is truth. So I pray that as you go and look at these things, that you begin to understand and have faith in the word of God, to know that God's word is true, that it's told you these things before they come to pass. So when you go look at the book of Revelation now, it will be a revelation to you. It won't be a mystery. It won't be something you can't understand. And as we continue to go through these studies, our eyes become more and more opened to understanding the current events and how they relate to our time. Anyways, guys, I'm going to close it out with that. If we can, let's just bow our heads in prayer. Heavenly Father, we just want to thank you for being with us here today. We thank you for giving us understanding of the events that are coming to pass in these last days and how they relate to your word and how you've told us these things before they come to pass so that we might have faith. And also, Father, establish us in righteousness. Give us a new heart. Create in us a clean heart so that we can reveal and give this loud cry to the world and help others to understand the signs of the times. And how, Father, that you are coming back very soon to gather your people. And I do pray all these things in the name of Jesus, your Son, and thank you. Amen. All right, guys. So anyways, for anybody who wants to have any, if you wanted to have any questions or comments or anything like that, I see there's plenty of comments here in the comment section, but I missed a lot of them. So if there's any questions or comments, feel free to ask me. Also, I'm going to shut down the live stream here. For those who want to join us in the room, you can join our Zoom room. It's under the link. It's in the link under the YouTube live stream or whatever you're on. And you can come and join.